Someone's saying something, but I can't understand it.
I just want to dance the night away.
Yeah, it's her theme song.
Ooh.
Oh!
Oh my God! Holy balls! What is that? Is that her?
She wasn't as cutesy as I expected.
Is that her?
I thought she would be more fun.
Oh my God! Oh no!
In my endless web.
I thought she was supposed to be a good guy.
Let's see if you're worthy to walk with angels.
Apparently your merch wasn't selling that hot, so...
I would be mad about that too.
Right?
It's okay.
Buy more
understand.
merch! Maybe if you had offered a fidget
understand.
spinner there, Alice. Ooh.
Oh.
To the demon or to the angel? I want to go...
What?
I feel like most people would choose angel, and I feel that's the way they want you to go, so I'm going to go demon.
How dare you play the game the way that was
Ooh, wait.
intended?
Did it lock behind me? Is this like a... Oh, it does! Oh, is there like multiple pathways?
Wait!
Is there multiple pathways in this? No way.
Are there key do we know if there are like actual key decision points?
Oh man, does Bendy now have like multiple paths and stuff? How cool is this?
Uh-oh.
Oh look, you have this kind of like his running
Oh
mechanics and stuff.
no. Did we just give ourselves the bad ending by choosing the devil or whatever?
It's gonna be the better ending, definitely. Bendy in the Butcher Gang.
Ooh.
So you got a sailor.
Does he help them or defeat them?
Right? A sailor.
I have a feeling we might get familiar with them soon.
Right.
Don't worry about it. Okay. I just didn't see it coming. You have to smack him. You have to smack him. There you go. He just swung.
Got it.
There you go.
Yeah. What are you? What are you supposed to be?
Whew.
Oh, that wasn't too bad. Yeah.
Boom.
Oh.
Didn't even phase us.
Look at that.
Huh.
That's a good jump scare. That was good. Ooh. Oh wait, there she is.
What?
Okay. Hold up. Hold up. Hey. I'm ready. I'm waiting.
Now we come to the question.
Seems like a
Do
cutscene.
I kill you? Do I tear you apart to my heart's delight?
Look at her. So she's got like a skull under there.
The beautiful are unbearable.
Oh.
How's a girl to choose?
Wow, she is not what I expected.
No, not at all.
It's pretty awesome.
Raw ink, drilling his tainted ink to my door. It could have touched me. It could have pulled me back.
Huh.
You know what it's like? Living in the dark puddles.
Huh.
It's
Huh.
a buzzing, screaming well of voices. Bits of your mind swimming like fish in a bowl.
Her voice is like 3 different voices mixed together.
Inky womb. I was a wiggling, pussy, shapeless slug.
The first time I was born.
Yeah.
Huh.
It made me an angel. I will not let the demon touch me again. I'm so close now. So almost perfect.
Huh.
Huh.
Yes, I will spare you.
That's cool. Thank you.
I'll let you ascend and leave this place. If you will do a few easy, weensy little favors for
Oh.
first.
This is so
Return
weird.
to the lift, my little errand boy. We have work to do.
So she has 3 different personalities in her.
Right.
It seems like.
From her 3 different incarnations. Oh wow. All right.
So Susie's one.
Yeah, Susie Campbell. It's actual Alice
Alice
Angel in
Angel
some
character.
form. But then she has like, maybe she didn't even have a voice in her first incarnation.
It's interesting. Or it sounds like she has a demonic voice.
Yeah.
Which makes me think. So when Bendy touches you, she doesn't want any of the people to touch her because
Right.
of their tainted ink or whatever.
Because she
and
doesn't
it'll
want
draw
to
her
return
back.
to the ink. Yeah.
Right. So apparently, if you're
If you
touched by
throw
the ink,
ink on her, then she should like go away, kind of.
Right.
Right. She should like return to the ooze.
and so Bendy, when he touches you, sucks you into this like inky
into the ink.
into this like inky collective mind. Like you're almost like melted into it, right? And so it sounds like she's collecting all these Boris parts, all these different parts of the different rejected characters to
make a perfect version of herself.
To bring herself back to life, give herself like the perfect
body.
Okay.
And so also what that tells you is that in every ink puddle there's like a bunch of souls or something, right?
Right.
Of all the characters.
Huh.
Okay.
Cool.
Ah! Turn it up.
It's the song.
What?
Machine, it's my bendy.
Oh my gosh!
The
ink machine.
So
that's
amazing.
awesome.
It's crazy, believe. Oh my gosh!
That's so cool.
That's so cool.
So nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh man, the Random Encounters guys must be excited.
What my ink machine can do. Yes, that's on the Random Encounters YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I did the bendy musical. I mentioned it before. Oh, there's no.
Oh, there he is.
I was Bendy in their Bendy and Ink Machine musical, and now it's in the game. That's so cool.
That's awesome. Yes. Little Hedley Lamar there, and there's our third one.
Hell's Kitchen. Hell's Kitchen. I don't know, guys.
Oh man, this is Gordon Ramsay.
Gordon Ramsay's garbage. Dirty bowl, Jimmy. This Wellington is under. This is why people don't invite me.
These scallops are raw.
They're raw.
These scallops are raw.
Touch that.
Touch it. Touch it.
Looks like it's ready to swim off the plate.
We're big Gordon Ramsay fans.
If this lamb were any rarer, it would be eating grass. You could return it to the field.
Oh, had to load.
Ooh, I wonder. Okay, I wonder if we're getting into some bendy territory.
Right, it feels like we're.
Why is this so choppy?
Is this? Oh no!
Oh yeah!
This
oh,
is
it's totally coming. It's totally coming.
Okay.
Ah!
Holy
okay, go,
cheese.
go, go,
Okay,
go,
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 no, shoot. No. Go. Where's? Okay, get out of here.
Just run. Oh my gosh! Come on.
Go.
Ah, jeez.
Go. Where is
it? Where's the locker?
Literally everywhere.
Until you need one, it's always the way.
Where the heck is a locker?
God.
Oh no, this is dead end.
It's like your keys when you're trying to find
them. Oh
them.
damn it! Just go.
Smack it.
Go. Shoot! He's gonna give me. Ah! Darn it! No!
Darn it! Man, I thought we had it.
Oh.
We had such a good run.
We did, like a literal run. So we're okay.
At GT Live Fam says, even though I haven't gotten noticed and probably won't, this is still super cool getting to be part of the stream.
Yeah,
That's
well,
nice.
Hey, guess what? It's even cooler because you got noticed. Oh, there it is. I ran past this when I was.
Aw, man.
Oh yeah, I see where it is. There's this.
Oh, it was right there. We passed like 8 of them, Matthew.
I was looking around. Okay.
Just saying.
There was a lot of stress. Don't die on the way back. I wonder if the swollen ones.
They're just stuffed full of extra thick ink. It makes me sick. And yet,
I have not seen any swollen ones.
it's the perfect thing for keeping myself together.
Wait, I thought you wanted to
If you're
avoid
gonna
the ink.
catch them, you'll have to learn to move quietly.
The extra thinking shit.
Come back to my
What?
door.
It's the Botox of the ink world.
I understand.
Take the ink tool.
She doesn't want any of her ink wrinkling.
It is Botox! It's totally the Botox of the ink world.
Alice, you don't need that to be beautiful. It's okay. We
Like
love you the
extra
way you
thick
are.
ink. This must be one of the. Hey, don't. Oh, they. Wait!
This?
Oh my gosh! Wait, there's Bendy. Holy cow! I'm like.
I was like, I think we need to hide.
I
Oh no!
was in the
Come
box!
on!
It's not my fault that the animation takes like half a day.
You weren't quite in the box. You weren't quite in the box.
I was totally in the box, Stephanie. Where is he? He's in this room, right?
Okay.
I can't really walk super. I just can't run. Got it. Yeah.
Oh, if you learn to walk quietly, it means you need to sneak up on the thick ones.
Like I did.
Okay, good.
THICC thick. I got him in my syringe.
Right? It's not an insult. It's THICC thick. Just means curvaceous.
He's a curvaceous ink blot.
Right?
Got him. Sucked him up in my syringe, my Botox.
It's just weird.
My bendy Botox.
Sneaky.
Yeah!
Another day, another dollar.
Wait.
Oh.
No.
Well, there's another one at least.
Well,
How many were you
it's
supposed to get?
4. So.
Aww.
Oh no! How was I supposed to know?
Shoot, man.
Right? I might have to run back down to that other area.
How would you know that tiny little
Right?
blob at the end? Guess it's very concentrated.
I guess, but wait, what? Oh, hey! Thank
Oh,
you.
jeez.
Oh,
Ah!
Chris! Thank you. Turn around. I said
Turn
run
around.
away. You said turn around. You said turn
You did.
around.
You did say turn around, and it occurred to me, I was like, if it's bendy, why is he saying
Yeah,
to
why
turn
would I
around?
turn around if the danger is
He
immediately
tried.
behind me?
Chris tried to save you in his own special way.
Hey Matt, turn around and run towards the thing that's trying to kill you. That's pro tips with Chris. Who are you, Stephanie? Where did you get the pro tip school?
I
from
trained
Stephanie?
him. He's my
Your
protege.
You've trained him well, Stephanie, because his tips are equally useless. So do I get to go back down into the trash can with you?
Grinning demons. Let's remove them.
Really?
Why are there more fetch quests? What is going on here? Come on.
More enjoyable.
Is it my pipe? Is it my pipe? Take the axe.
It's the axe. Give him the axe.
I could have done again.
It really
Alice,
doesn't
Alice, I
like we
could have
could
done
just
this.
one fell swoop. You
Alice.
don't need that many of the. Oh my god.
Efficiency. Efficiency. Thy name is not Alice Angel.
Right? Come on.
Like I got nothing better to do.
This could really have been done a bit more efficiently. It seems like.
Feels like there's a bit more theory fodder in this.
It does. That
Oh,
I
wait,
will
there's
say.
one.
There's a lot. There's a lot of those interesting notes. Bam.
Oh, whoa. He
Whoa.
haven't
It's
done
a
that.
little bit glitchy there.
Ooh, there, and he's gone.
Okay. Ooh, what if you chop Alice Angel
Oh,
in
wait,
the face?
wait.
Aw, shoot.
I felt the screen do that shift thing.
Right?
As Bendy starts to load. So that means I better hide somewhere. Oh, wait, there he is.
Nice.
That was fun. Oh, but I forgot to mention. He hates it when I do that.
Huh.
I would
Yeah, great.
I'm working on it.
Okay.
There we go. Got it!
Yes!
I hear him. Oh, there it is. Finally, we didn't die.
Where is he?
Are we gonna see him?
Where is Bendy?
He's big, man. He's tall.
It's a lot like a shambling animatronic. I'm just saying.
Doesn't look at all like a shambling animatronic. It
Just
looks like a
saying.
shambling pile of ink, Stephanie. Come on. Do 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 do. Bendy,
Bendy baby,
Bendy,
Bendy baby.
Bendy baby,
Bendy baby.
Bendy.
Won't you come out tonight?
Don't come out. Don't
Don't
come out
come out tonight. Don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
like a welcoming grave. I like the silence. Don't you?
Return to the angel.
Why doesn't the angel just let us go?
Finished. Fortunately, I have you to pick up the pieces.
What pieces can I pick up for you, Alice?
Oh, come on.
Down, down, down
Ooh.
into the abyss.
We're going down,
Alright.
not up. Okay.
I like
The lift out
stairs in a different direction. That's cool.
to an old friend. Shh. There he is. The projectionist.
Oh.
Skulking in the darkness.
What?
Be sure to stay out of his light. If you don't want trouble, just bring me back the pieces I need.
That's what we're down here for. The heart pieces
The
or
heart
whatever.
pieces, okay. And that's the projectionist.
Sure.
Huh. All right. So this is your solid snake mission. Sneak around without being spotted by the security guard.
Right?
Can you hear me? Because I'm making a ton of noise. I'm just like, don't.
I know, you're just
stealth,
like, splash,
stealth,
splash.
stealth, look at me stealth. Stealth, stealth, stealth. I'm the quietest guy.
Oh, nice.
Yes,
Another
let's go
one.
right next to each
Yes.
other.
Wait, how many is that now?
That's
3. Oh, wait, look, there's 1. 4.
Oh man, we found like the graveyard of them all. Oh,
Wait,
5.
5.
Go away.
Oh my gosh.
Bring them to me now.
Great.
Wow, that was
actually really easy.
left-hand wall trick, man.
Woo-hoo!
That was clutch.
Nice.
That worked out really well. Here we go. Yeah, end of the to-do list.
Sweet. And so you're going to set us free into the world. No?
Return to the left.
Right?
Ready to ascend, my little errand boy?
Just want to go home.
The heavens are waiting.
He's gonna kill me.
No, we could just go back to like California. That'd be fine. Be okay for now.
Got a cough.
Oh, she's actually laughing at us.
Demonic laughter.
Thought it was just a little touch of the bronchitis.
Lol.
Ha ha ha.
Should be an apostrophe.
Right? What? No, not my Boris!
No, not Boris!
No!
Don't you dare!
Oh my gosh,
I
don't
will
you hurt
fight
my
you
Boris.
for Boris. He is the purest innocent creature.
He's the sweetest little Boris. He likes
How
his
da-
soup.
Oh, hey, bud.
Oh, looks like we survived the fall.
Oh, she's in the background.
Oh,
No, Boris!
No, Boris!
No!
No, Boris, no!
No! Boris! No!
No!
Paranormal Activity style!
Gotta go get him.
No,
The
Boris!
path, wait, the path of the demon. That was the end of the chapter. We don't even get to go rescue Boris. No, Boris.
So the path of the demon, I think, is in reference to me going to the demon side.
It is.
Right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it.
Is the angel side different?
It must be the.
Hey, Jack! It is! Jacksepticeye! It totally is. There he is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Jacksepticeye!
Ah, that's fun. Bendy the Ink Machine, written by Kyle
Bendy
Allen.
the
Yeah,
Ink
woo,
musical
woo.
from Random Encounter!
Yeah!
Yes!
Woo!
Awesome!
Oh
Let's
wow!
go
Look
on
at all the
Random
fan
Encounter
art. Oh my
channel.
gosh, that's amazing.
Oh, the fan art is so cool.
Oh wait, no, these are just the actual posters. These are just the
they're-
actual posters
No, they're
from
the
the thing.
posters, but they're fan art. That's the cool thing that they do in this game, is they take fan art and they work it into the actual. they work it
Oh,
into the
that's
actual game, which is
cool.
awesome.
That's
So,
awesome.
okay, here's what I propose. Once the credits are done, what we should do is hop in real quick and just, because that choice is like right at the beginning. Let's see if it prompts anything different. So last time we took the demon.
Now
This
we go
time
with the
we'll take
angel.
The angel. Dreams come true. Okay, so now demon should be locked. It is. Huh. So dreams come true. Oh, okay, so here's the recording.
Okay.
Susie.
Everything feels like it's coming apart. When I walked into the recording booth today, Sammy was there with that Allison.
Oh no.
Apparently, I didn't get the memo. Alice Angel will now be voiced by this
Huh.
That
Alice.
one.
That's
yeah.
it. Okay.
Part of me died when he said that.
Huh.
Oh man.
There's gotta be a way to fix this.
Interesting. Okay, so that explains.
That explains the two voices.
It explains multiple voices. It
Yeah.
explains why she was created.
Right.
It's my trendy new Bendy Ink Machine. If you want to see the musical that I did of Bendy and the Ink Machine with the Random Encounters guys, it's actually the link to the left.
And
I
if
had a
you-
blast doing it.
And if you want to see this full stream uncut with every grueling, inky second, click the box to the right.
It's a lot of collectibles.
So many.
And subscribe for more Bendy, please.
Top of the morning to you, ladies. My name is Jacksepticeye, and welcome back to Papers, Please. Now, I should say a few things about this game before I get back into it, because time is of the essence with this game. So, first things first, I'm not good at this game. I know that. I have a lot of people come to me in the comments saying, Jesus, Jack, you don't need to inspect every little tiny piece of information. I do, because I'm not good at discerning these things, like when I'm under time constraints. I get very panicky. I'm not good at cross-referencing information myself, so I'm relying a lot on what the game is telling me to do. I know I get through less people that way, but you have to think about this game from a newbie standpoint. A lot of you have played the game a lot by now, and know a lot of what you're doing. When you get to end game, the starting days probably seem very, very easy now, so watching somebody who's new to the game do it all over again is very hard to watch, so I apologize for that, but I'm still going to need as much time as I can. I'm not going to get through like 11 people a day, because I'm just not that good at it, and to be frank, it was comments like that and the pressure of being able to... The pressure of trying to be good at the game was stopping me from playing it again, and that's why there was such a gap between the second episode and this one. Because I was just afraid. I was afraid of getting in and playing the game again and having people say that I was bad at it and all that kind of stuff. But I just need to put that out of my head and play it, because I know a lot of you still haven't played it yourselves and you're still going along with it the way I am. So let me play the game the way I want to play it. Let me play it the way I'm going to play it, organically. And then after that, if I fail, I fail. I can go back and try it again and get better and better and better and learn as I go. So I thank you any tips for the game. Like legitimate proper tips. I have gotten some good tips that I wasn't able to implement for the second episode because I had to bulk record them, so I didn't get a chance to see the comments on the last one, or the first one, until, like, the second one had already gone up. So, I apologize for that, but let's get back in. Story. We are on... What day are we on? Day 7. Oh, God. I'm not good enough at the game. Human trafficking ring shut. 0 credits, 4 family members, 0 tokens, apartment C8. Okay, so we're still in level 8 lodgings, which is good. That's like the best in the game, from what I understand. And we still have all family members, so that's good. Human trafficking ring shut down. Creston checkpoint officer nabs mastermind. Another attack at Creston checkpoint. Okay, so we got this guy. So I don't think I'm supposed to detain everyone who gives me a discrepancy, just to people who are wanted. And I think that was a mistake I made last time, as anybody who's giving me a discrepancy, I just detained them instantly, which gave me no money, which was a bad thing to do. I think detaining doesn't give you any money, but rejecting them or sending them through, just processing them, does. I might be wrong about that. Again, let me play the game the way I want to play it. If it's hard to watch, I apologize. There are other people who are far better at the game that you can watch play it other than me, but I like this game too much to just stop the series over nonsense like that, so I have as much time as I want here at the start until I say next, and then the day starts, so I'm gonna have to start looking at this. To facilitate more thorough inspections, a search scanner system has been installed in your booth. Ah, crap. I know it's been such a long time since I played it. I haven't been able to, like, play it continuously, non-stop, to be able to build up a knowledge of what I'm doing super fast. Okay. Kolechian extremists are suspected in yesterday's bombing. Search all Kolechians before approving their entry. Glory to our Stotska! Yes, and I know that's the scout thing from Attack on Titan that I keep doing. Right, okay, so correlate pertinent info in the rulebook with violating information to enable further options. Is there anybody... Oh, God. Correlate discovered weapons and contraband with rulebook entry. Okay, human trafficking ring shut down, another attack. Okay, so nobody else is on the loose. And anybody who's Kolechian, I have to search. Right, so a good thing to have is my rulebook out. That's something that people were telling me, to have my rulebook out at all time. And this is where I find the stuff. The issuing cities. So if I have the issuing cities, Great Rapid, if it matches their passport, then it's good. I think. It's hard to know sometimes. Can I go back? Okay. Regional map, Kolechia. So anything that looks like this, I have to search these out. Okay, I should probably keep that out. Probably keep you somewhere. I'll keep you on the table, or I'll keep you here. That's where my rules or my things go, so I can just pop you out. I don't think there's anything new. What was the stuff from last time? People need a visa, thingy. Oh wait, I can check my rules. I'm going to take my time at this. I'm going to do it right. Basic rules. Entrant must have a passport, obviously. All documents must be current. Yes. And I know a lot of people are able to correlate the date straight away. Like they can like check the date straight away off the top of their head.
I just got intimidated as shit.
I don't think Poton has come through here.
cool.
Well, that's helpful.
Yeah. You fucking said that before I loaded up the next screen.
Where the fuck is Zoomy Lake? Where the fuck is Zoomy Lake? I don't know where the fuck it is. Zoomy Lake.
What? Oh. It's a dog.
I've been taken over.
Is he gonna get jumped?
I think he's gonna get his little poton dick sucked.
Ah. One single old dog walking by himself in a meadow is usually not a recipe for good vibes.
They call it Zoomy Lake because you just get in and out. In and out. In and out.
Oh my god.
Poton!
With any luck, I should be there in 27 days.
Poton, wait up! Just keeps walking. It's always like slightly out of earshot. Poton!
Slow down! My fastest speed is exactly you walking.
Poton! Wait, what? So where is he? Where is Zoomy? Okay, let's check the map. Let's check the map. Let's check the map. Oh, interesting. It's backwards and up. I'm gonna get the fuck out of here cause that gorilla's scaring me and he's gonna eat off my little puppy face. Holy fucking shit, there's a snake.
Took some damage, but whatever.
I'm not even there yet. Oh my god, I get it. He's going to Zoomy Lake.
Oh my god.
Jesus.
I'm almost there. You'll never catch me.
Jesus. It's like fucking... I'm coming! Chosen one! I'm coming!
I'm coming! Oh my god, next time on Game Grumps.
Next time on Game Grumps, we're gonna go to Zoomy Lake.
Oh my god, I can't wait.
It's gonna be fucking awesome.
Oh my god, I can't wait.
It's gonna be fucking awesome.
Hey! That's right. Let's learn to paint. It's got that kind of music.
Yeah, just use your fingers. It's easy.
Spirits near, I call to you. Is anyone with me today? That doesn't make sense. If you move it to no, then somebody has to be there. Hey, that is just rude. Welcome to Film Theory, the show that bends over backwards to deliver you scarily good theories. Hello! And when I say backwards, I mean really bends over backwards. Now with Halloween fast approaching, we're about to experience one of fall's spookiest trends. And no, I don't mean people dressing up as clowns trying to lure children into the woods. But while we're on the subject, this trend is freaking me out. Sorry all you trick-or-treaters, but any of you who show up at my house this Halloween dressed as clowns might get yourself reflex kicked in the chest. Consider this your first and last warning. Anyway, the trend I was referring to was the Halloween horror cash grab, as every year movie studios rush in to make cheap, scary movie sequels that'll get them a quick buck. And often, in their collective race to the bottom, they're greenlighting projects that no one liked in the first place. Case in point, the topic for today, Ouija, a movie series rocking a solid 7% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's safe to say that the movie-going audience wasn't clamoring for a sequel on this one. And can you blame them? It's a movie based on a board game, and we saw how well that worked out with Battleship a few years ago. Except here, I hesitate to even give it the credit of calling it a game, since it requires someone to move that little plastic piece as though it's possessed by a ghost, and then lie about it to the rest of the group, which means if you have a bunch of honest friends like good old Matt Pat here, and no one moves the darn thing, you just have to wait there and nothing happens. Here's a better name for it: sit there and look like an idiot. it. There's your truth in advertising. Slap that one onto the box. Sorry, the rage pad is strong with this one. I'm just upset that I spent $20 on a piece of cardboard and a crappy plastic triangle. So, why am I talking about these movies when I could be out there pumpkin picking or sampling some exotic butters? Well, as I watched the trailers for this year's new installment, Ouija Origin of Evil, something clicked in my little brainy head. This lame modern horror franchise may actually be connected to one of the greatest classic horror franchises of all time. The Exorcist. In fact, Regan, the main character from The Exorcist, you know the one, the vomit-spewing conduit for satanic demons? Yeah, her. She may be the one to blame for all of the events of the Ouija series. Ouija? Ouija. I pronounce it Ouija, as in creepy Luigi. I just double-checked the Cambridge English Dictionary, and it is in fact Ouija in the US and in the UK. Boom, knowledge dropped. Okay, maybe not in the UK, only in the US, but you know what, it's one of those things, GIF, GIF, let's all just get along and pronounce it. GIF, 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 how about we pronounce it piece of shit board? How about that? You heard me right. I'm saying Ouija 1 and 2 may just be the unofficial sequels to The Exorcist. How cool would that be? Well, get ready, because we're gonna have ourselves a devilishly good time today. And be warned, because of the subject material, there are some graphic images ahead. Now, before we begin, here's what you need to know about both movies in less than 60 seconds. Start the clock. Now. The Exorcist starts in Washington, D.C., where a tween girl is living with her mother, who happens to be a famous actress. The girl, Regan, starts behaving strangely, convulsing, peeing in front of the company, and using very creative profanity.
Your mother sucks dicks in hell.
After a battery of medical tests, Regan's mom suggests that she is possessed by the devil and seeks an exorcism. 2 priests are assigned to the task. After Regan redecorates the walls a bit, the priests are separated, the old one has a heart attack and dies, the young one says to the demon, "Come at me, bro!" The demon does indeed, possessing the young priest, who then jumps out the window to his death, supposedly ridding the world of the demon. Regan is back to normal and life goes on. Or does it? It does, at least until the sequel. Ouija starts out with 2 young girls playing with a Ouija board and talking about the do's and don'ts of playing. Years later, one of them commits suicide, so the other tries to contact her using the exact same board, except, dun dun dun, they actually contact the spirit of another dead girl named Doris, who starts to terrorize the group of friends and force them to kill themselves. They eventually burn Doris's old mummified body and the Ouija board, and they live happily ever after with their PTSD. Or do they? They do, probably until the sequel. Whew, y'all caught up? Good. Now, a bunch of you are still probably saying that I'm crazy for thinking that there's some kind of connection between these 2 movies, so let's just start off with the one that sparked my interest in this theory to begin with, the Ouija board. Now, obviously, the Ouija board is important in the movie named after it. It serves as a conduit through which spirits enter the real world. But now let's look at The Exorcist. Sure, everybody remembers the big moments like the head spin and lines like, "The power of Christ compels you," but I bet most of you have forgotten how Regan herself got possessed in the first place. Early in the movie, Regan tells her mother that she's found a Ouija board in the closet, and that she plays with it with her invisible friend, Captain Howdy. Okay, time out. If someone introduces themselves to you as Captain Howdy, you're at best a child molester and at worst a demon, so just walk away. This has been a Film Theory public service announcement. Now, before she found this Ouija board, Regan was fine, but after she starts communing with Captain Howdy, everything goes to hell. Hell. Get it? Jokes are great. Now, all you astute theorists might be thinking that correlation isn't causation, that we can't just say because weird stuff started happening after Regan started playing with the Ouija board that the Ouija board is to blame. But let's turn back to Ouija the movie, which sets forth 3 rules for safe spirit contact. 1, never play in a graveyard. 2, always say goodbye. So dumb. That's the reason you have a 7% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, Ouija. And 3, never play alone. It's rule number 3 that's important here. In the first Ouija movie, Debbie uses the board by herself, and it's what causes Doris to start haunting her. And it's the same thing with Regan and Captain Howdy. She plays alone, and she gets possessed. And mind you, these aren't some general rules from the board game. They're made up in the movie universe, so there's really no reason why the boards would behave so similarly in both movies, unless this happened to be a shared universe. Now, there's another problem here that some of you are probably thinking. In Ouija, the teenagers aren't possessed. They summon the spirit of Doris, the angry ghost of an evil girl. That's nothing like Regan in The Exorcist, who actually gets possessed by the devil. So how on earth could I say that these boards function in the same way? way? Well, let's clear some things up. First, Regan isn't actually possessed by the devil. It's a common misconception, and you can't be faulted for making it when Regan says things like,
And I'm the devil.
but in The Exorcist II: The Heretic, it's actually revealed that Regan was possessed by Pazuzu, an ancient Babylonian wind demon. If that seems completely random, it's actually not. Remember in the first movie that we see an archaeological dig site in Iraq where Father Marin, the soon-to-be puke receptacle, discovers a figurine of a demon? Well, that demon is Pazuzu. And if you look carefully, there's actually a good shot of Regan reaching out to Pazuzu during the exorcism scene at the end of the movie. Look at that, smart filmmaking, guys. Now, obviously, I'm not gonna argue that Doris, the little girl from Ouija, is an ancient Middle Eastern demon, but I am gonna point out that the new movie Ouija: Origin of Evil is a prequel about Doris's origin story. And we can see in the trailers that she didn't start off as just some angry ghost. It appears that she uses a Ouija board alone back in the late 1960s and gets herself possessed by, you guessed it, a demon spirit that comes out of the board. So in both Exorcist and the Ouija prequel, the boards function the same way. You play alone, you get yourself possessed by a demon. But whip out those rosary beads, loyal theorists, because not only do the boards act the same way, but the demons do too. It's time to do some demonalysis. Similarity number 1, their targets. Pazuzu and the Ouija demon not only come into the world the same way, but they also use similar people as conduits. Both Doris and Regan are preteen girls without a father figure. In fact, in the trailer for Ouija: Origin of Evil, Doris looks like she's trying to contact what we assume is her dead father through the board, before she gets herself throat punched by the leather daddy gimp demon. Regan's father, meanwhile, isn't dead, but he does live abroad in Italy and doesn't bother to talk to his daughter even on her own birthday. In both cases, we've got young women without a strong male presence in their lives, which makes it much easier for them to be seduced and corrupted by a male spiritual presence. Similarity number 2, the eyes. Perhaps the thing that most shocked audiences about The Exorcist was the battery of grotesque physical transformations Regan undergoes throughout the movie. You probably remember her cracked skin and janky teeth, but on a number of occasions, Regan's eyes roll into the back of her head and look all white. Ouija gives us way fewer visual clues to tell us that people are possessed, but we do see the group's eyes turn that same milky white when they're attacked by Doris. But that's just what your eyes do when you're possessed by a demon, object those of you who are suddenly experts on demonic possession. Well, here's the thing. I'd be willing to overlook this if white eyes were a universally accepted movie trope, like how you have to walk slowly away from something that you blow up, but it's not. In The Exorcism of Emily Rose, Dexter's sister's eyes just dilate and turn black when they're possessed, and Sister Mary Eunice's eyes turn red in season 2 of American Horror Story. The white eyes shared by Regan, the kids in Ouija, and Doris in the origin story isn't necessarily the smoking gun, but it is another prominent connection of these sorts of possessions. And we're still not done. Just look at similarity number 3, the demon's powers. Probably the best way to draw parallels between the demons we see in The Exorcist and Ouija is by comparing how they act and what they're able to do. And the overlap here is actually surprising. Both demons have the unusual ability to enable their possessee to speak in tongues. When Pazuzu possesses Regan, she's suddenly able to speak several different languages, from Latin to French to Italian. Fair enough. But then in the trailer for Ouija: Origin of Evil, it's revealed that after Doris starts acting strangely, she writes a number of letters in Polish. Huh, interesting shared connection there. Seems like both of our demons happen to be linguistics majors. And then there's the subject of levitation. Some of the earliest hijinks the demon causes in The Exorcist include making Regan's bed levitate off the ground, which by the end of the movie has graduated to making Regan herself levitate into the air. Similarly, Doris's victims in Ouija levitate cleanly off the ground. And even Doris herself seems to be able to defy gravity, as evidenced by this clip that we get of the new movie, in which Doris crawls her way up the side of the staircase with her eyes in that glossy, white, possessed look. A scene, mind you, that is very reminiscent of The Exorcist's nightmare-inducing, body-contorting spider walk down the stairs. And speaking of demons compelling their conduits to move down the stairs in creepy ways, how about that classic Exorcist flexibility? Well, in the opening of the Ouija: Origin of Evil trailer, we see Doris being bent backwards in a position that would allow her to do something like the spider walk. In fact, both Regan's demon and Doris's demon seem to be able to defy human anatomy, contorting the body in ways that should be breaking the little girl's bones and joints, be it the owl head spin in The Exorcist or Doris's jaw drop. So there are a lot of similarities here. Yes, some are shared in large part with possessions in general, but a lot of this, like the languages and the backbends, are specific to this movie franchise. But still, at the beginning of all this, I claim that Regan may have started the events of Ouija, and for all the similar possession rules and demonic powers powers, in order to really connect Doris and Regan, we need to simply connect them via time and place. And believe it or not, we can do that too. Although the events of The Exorcist are never given a specific date, we know it occurs sometime after 1954. Since Regan's mother Chris is set to star in a movie about the Vietnam War protests, and 1954 is the year that war started. But we also know that The Exorcist takes place before 1971, since that's the year The Exorcist book, which prompted the movie, was written. Based on the early release promotional materials, we know that the events of Ouija Origin of Evil are set in the 19th theory would not anger the die-hard fans. Perhaps a theory calculating the worth of a human soul. Nah, that'll probably get people mad too. Internet, welcome to Film Theory, the only show on YouTube that can ruin your childhood faster than a botched attempt at bringing your dead mother back to life. You know, it's been a while since we last talked about Full Metal Alchemist, and a lot has changed in the world of anime since we corrected Ed and Al's biochemistry homework. A brand new season of Attack on Titan has come and gone, My Hero Academia has stolen our hearts, and Naruto has a kid now, apparently? Man, life moves fast. I mean, one moment you're in school, wearing a metal headband, making hand signs, and running around with your hands behind your back, even though scientifically speaking, the drag that creates would only make you slower, and the next, your old buddy Naruto is a dad. Makes you feel kinda old, doesn't it? Makes you kinda worry about the inevitability of death? Well, it's that kind of existential crisis that makes a guy want to pursue immortality. And anime has plenty of potential solutions. Vampirism, wishing on the Dragon Balls, but it's Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, the 2009 reboot of Full Metal Alchemist that more closely follows the story of the original comics, that has the solution to immortality that I want to explore today. Ladies and gentlemen of the internet, strap yourselves in, because today it is my goal to calculate the strength of a human soul. And be warned, because there are some pretty intense spoilers for FMA Brotherhood up ahead. 9 different characters in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood are functionally immortal. The 7 homunculi, artificial humans named after the 7 deadly sins, their creator father, and von Hohenheim, the dear old dad of our Hello, Internet. Welcome to Film Theory, where I really don't get what the big deal is about me wearing this red shirt today. Anyway, Star Trek. Despite the show's seemingly idealistic utopian worldview, there's always been something that's bothered me about it. Something darker hidden beneath the surface of every Star Trek series and film I've ever watched. And I've seen pretty much them all. The original series, the animated series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, the motion picture, The Wrath of Khan, Star Trek Generations, the J.J. Abrams reboots. There are so many! What have I done with my life? How many hours have I spent? I mean, Star Wars fans only have to watch 7 films.
I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
Star Wars fans only have to watch 4 films. But Trekkies have to watch 6 different series and 13 different films. My God. No wonder I'm so pale. My life could have been so different. I could have had facial hair. Anyway, at first glance, the crew of the Enterprise seems like a bunch of benevolent heroes. Kirk and his crew repeatedly save the universe from alien clouds, angry lizard people, and even God himself. The Trek reboot series has continued this trend, with Kirk and his crew fending off against alien terrorists, genetically altered terrorists, and then, well, another round of terrorists. But throughout all of these, there's always been one consistent problem that no one talks about. Every mission, every fight, every supposed victory is told only from the Federation's point of view. Each episode of Star Trek and every subsequent film features Kirk or some member of his crew speaking into a star log.
Captain's log. Captain's log. Captain's log.
Captain's log.
USS Enterprise Captain's personal log.
And as a result, every episode and film comes from an inherently biased perspective, a story told to us by the Federation itself. So the question today is there a story here that they're not telling us? Is the Federation truly as benevolent as they claim to be? In order to truly evaluate the Federation and the real nature of the mission, we need to take a step back and boldly go where no YouTube host has gone before, to objectively analyze the Star Trek universe based purely on the behaviors of the characters and their surrounding society. All we have to do is start with the Federation's mission statement, which is conveniently repeated throughout everything Star Trek.
Space, the final frontier.
These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise.
Your ongoing mission? To explore strange new worlds.
To seek out new life and new civilizations. To boldly go where
no one has gone before.
This mantra boils down to one simple word: exploration. The Federation claims this exploration is only for acquiring knowledge and searching the cosmos, but take one look at history and you see a very different story. Exploration tends to occur with two different goals in mind. One, to claim as many resources as possible to benefit the home empire, and two, to spread that home empire, indoctrinating others under a single government and religion. Practically every single past exploration falls under these rules, from the expansion of the Roman Empire to British imperialism to the very foundation of the good old US of A. Christopher Columbus in 1492 didn't sail the ocean blue and discover America just to chill, meet some natives, and spend a few wampum on an I Heart Plymouth Rock coffee mug. No, sir! He claimed the land under European rule and forced Catholicism on all the indigenous people. Even the first explorations of space were fueled by Cold War fears. After Russia successfully launched Sputnik, America needed to establish a foothold in space before the Russians did it and started raining nukes down from above. It wasn't for education or discovery, it was to maintain dominance. And that's only two examples. Historically, exploration has always sprouted from primal and selfish human needs. And speaking to point one of those 2 points, we already know for certain that the Federation is on the hunt for resources. There are multiple episodes throughout the original series, like the Empath and Friday's Child, where we see the Federation's mining colonies, as well as them competing with the Klingons for mining rights. So then what about point 2, spreading the Empire? Why would we think that the Federation is any different? Because they tell us? But if you look beyond, Star Trek Beyond, if you look Star Trek beyond their words and start to see their actions, you see a completely different story. A story of fascism. Now, just so we're all on the same page, fascism is a system of government that controls all aspects of a citizen's daily life. Often it comes neatly packaged with your friendly neighborhood dictator. Some of the most famous fascist dictators in history include Hitler and Mussolini during World War II. And you know how well things worked out there. But then how is the Federation, this seemingly do-gooder organization, fascist? Well, let's first take a look at what they control in the Star Trek universe. Transportation? Check. Just take a look at the vehicle lists of the Star Trek verse. They're all built by the Federation. The only non-Federation ships that we see throughout the series are those that belong to enemy alien species. If you're gonna want to travel the solar system, well then you're gonna have to talk to Big Daddy Federation to get some permission. Or just hop aboard a smuggler ship. Where's Han Solo when you need him? The Federation also controls communication and the flow of ideas. Every communicator is owned and controlled by the Federation. You can even clearly see the Federation's insignia inscribed on each one. Screw iOS versus Android, you're Federation or nothing. Then, by Star Trek The Next Generation, ships like the Enterprise D possess advanced computer systems that are capable not only of running most basic ship functions, but also of monitoring communications and the location of every crew member on board. And not only does the Federation control the flow of communication, but also its content. They own two of the most prevalent news programs in the galaxy, the Federation News Network and the Federation News Service. How about the justice and criminal court systems? Again, it's under the thumb of the Federation, and they use that power to cull the herd, using unilateral hearings to weed out anyone who dissents or is deemed as unfit. For instance, in the episode Galileo 7, we see Kirk directly disobey the orders of his High Commodore in order to save his crew, something heavily frowned on in the Starfleet. The grudge lives on, and a few stardates and episodes later, in the episode Court Martial, we see the Federation actively trying to get Kirk to resign, and when he refuses, trying to kick him off the ship in the first ever general court martial of a Starfleet captain, going so far as to hire a prosecutor who had a past personal relationship with him. They're making up the rules as they go along to make sure that Kirk gets kicked off. But it's not just in the original original series. After Kirk's failed mutiny in the 2009 Star Trek movie, there's no trial, no deliberation, no jury. Spock simply orders Kirk to be placed into a pod and jettisoned off into an icy planet. Justice here is determined solely by those given power by the Federation. And what's more, there are no checks or balances to impede that power. In Into Darkness, Admiral Marcus develops long-range stealth torpedoes, constructs a secret mega warship, and organizes a warmongering plot against the Klingons. Those aren't feats Admiral Marcus did single-handedly. He was acting through Section 31, Starfleet Black Ops, something that required Federation funds and personnel to accomplish. Sure, Captain Kirk and the crew saw his actions as wrong and chose to fight against him, but then what about the rest of the Federation? Where were they in all of this? Additionally, in order to maintain control, fascists oppose any system in which citizens have power. As such, they despise capitalism, which is designed to give the common man democratic power through their spending. In fact, Hitler was determined to, quote, destroy this system under all conditions. You know the old saying, mo money, mo problems, no money, dictatorial rule. Now think back to all the times you've seen somebody in the Star Trek universe buy something or exchange money. I mean, there are tons of scenes of Kirk drinking at the bar, but you never see him pay, and that's because the Federation has done away with money and commerce. In Star Trek First Contact, we're told,
You see, money doesn't exist in the 24th century.
Sure, some purists might say that there's an economic system in place revolving around credits, but look closer and you see that this is only used as a form of exchange with alien creatures who don't understand the concept of economy without currency. It's a means to an end. The Federation, in the territories that it controls, has done something that Hitler could only dream of: eliminate capitalism. But you might be saying that this is all meant to create a utopian society, that mankind is working to create a universe beyond all wants and needs. But obviously they're not. Former members of the Federation routinely go rogue and attempt to assert their own dominance over civilizations. In Star Trek Beyond, the villain Krall is revealed to be Balthazar Edison, a disgruntled ex-Federation captain. In Star Trek Into Darkness, Admiral Marcus, another Federation member, attempts to start a war between the Federation and the Klingons, all to further his own political reach and power. No matter what the Federation may claim, humanity is still governed by the same selfish, basic motivations it's always been. Utopia? I don't think so. Even the ideology of the Federation directly mirrors fascism. Fascists emphasize the importance of the state over the individual. Per Adolf Hitler, quote, society's needs come before the individuals. Sound familiar?
Doctor, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
That's right. One of the most famous lines in Star Trek history promotes fascism. And it doesn't stop there. Star Trek is littered with offhand comments by our supposed heroes endorsing the ideology. In Star Trek Beyond, Scotty tries to convince Jayla to join Starfleet by invoking the famous bundle of sticks proverb. A single stick breaks easily, but a bundle of sticks is unbreakable. Seems harmless enough, right? Except this simple phrase is the very root of fascist ideology. In fact, the word fascism actually derives from the Latin fasces, which translates to a bundle of sticks. In fact, the original symbol of fascism in Italy was, get this, a bundle of sticks. Mind blown. Oh yeah, and what happens when you dare speak out against the Federation? If you even so much as question their motivations. Just look at Star Trek Beyond's Krall. He claims that after voicing his displeasure with the Federation, he and his crew were then stranded on the dying planet. Now, you may think to yourself, why trust the word of a Star Trek villain? Can we really believe his words over the Federation? No way, right? Except, we've already seen the Federation do exactly what Krall claims. When Kirk dares to speak out against Spock, he's immediately exiled to an inhospitable planet. And very clearly, this is what the creators of the movie had in mind. Just look at what they say in this featurette on the character of Krall.
I wanted a character that is there to deconstruct the Federation's ideals, but to do it in a way where he has a very valid philosophy.
So then, just what is the Federation up to? In the words of Spock,
an ancestor of mine maintained that if you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth.
And it's simply impossible that the Federation, a fascist organization that controls every aspect of its citizens' lives, that exiles anybody who dares question them, would explore the galaxies for purely benevolent purposes. Their mission statement, then, must be a lie. a facade. As we saw in World War II, fascists gain power through fear, building up anxieties in citizens against other groups or nations. The classic example here is Hitler and his crusade against people of Jewish descent. But now think about how the Federation always paints their enemy as aggressors or wrongdoers. But the Klingons, Romulans, and Cardassians, it's actually less scary if we talk about them, they all could just be responding appropriately to a fascist regime pushing across the galaxy. Remember, Star Trek is told through the eyes of the Federation, but you should always question the motives of the person telling you the facts so that you can get what's really going on, both in fiction and in real life. But hey, that's just a theory, a film theory, and cut. So now that we've talked about Star Trek, let's talk about Starbucks. Double Shot, who sponsored today's video, but not in the way that you'd expect. The Starbucks Double Shot. In the Transformers movies, you know who I feel the worst for? People who bought cars that turned out to be Transformers. Can you imagine trying to get to work just to have your car turn into an alien robot and fly away? Well, that's $28,000 down the drain. Optimus, the least you can do is call him an Uber. If Batman is the hero Gotham deserves, well, I just feel sorry for Gotham. Hello, Internet. Welcome to Film Theory, where today's episode is gonna get real. Not like Hellman's Mayo real. I mean comic book movies getting real. Seriously, even though it seems like it really shouldn't matter whether comic book superhero movies are realistic, it's been all the rage for literally the last decade, and it's made a huge difference in the way we see movies made about men in spandex tights. Comic book movies used to be the center of everything cheesy, campy, and overblown, but now every time you turn around, there's another alcoholic Jessica Jones or debate about the ethics of Superman as a godlike being. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy it, it's just that this stuff is intense. And at the center of it all is Batman. Or should I say, Batman. That's right, gritty realism has been right next to the batarangs and grappling hook on Batman's tool belt ever since Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy took superhero movies from this to this.
Where are they?
And that's a good thing. I love the Dark Knight trilogy.
Gotham is yours.
Well, most of it anyway. Because, simply put, for being the films that defined what realism means in comic book movies, the ending has a huge mistake. A mistake that puts Batman's hero status into serious question. From here on out, hitch up your spoiler pants, because today we're talking about the ending of The Dark Knight Rises. At the end of the movie, Batman stands victorious. Bane has been defeated, and Talia al Ghul has died her dramatic death. Only one major threat remains, but it's a doozy. A nuclear bomb set to flatten Gotham. As the timer ticks down, Batman rushes to fly the bomb out over the water to a safe distance where it explodes. City saved. Batman is a hero. Except that's actually not what would happen. If the movie was truly adhering to realism as strictly as Christopher Nolan intended, Batman would actually have failed in his attempt to save the city. Let's look at the facts. To show you what I mean, I have to tell you some more about nuclear bombs. I've actually had the chance to visit one of the world's real nuclear weapon sites in Hiroshima to do research for this kind of episode, and these weapons are incredibly serious. Neutron bombs, like the one shown in Batman, work by shooting incredibly high-energy neutron particles to specifically cause radiation damage. To know how strong a bomb is, you look at its yield, which tells you how much regular TNT it would take to achieve the same blast as the bomb. The neutron bomb from Batman is a 4-kiloton weapon, meaning it would take 4,000 tons of TNT to get the same blast. That's 8 million pounds of TNT. To give you a comparison, the Hiroshima bomb was between 12.5 and 15 kilotons. So this one is actually quite a bit smaller, about a third of the size. Fun fact, or maybe not so fun fact, believe it or not, there have been much, much bigger bombs made and tested over the years, up into the megaton range, 100 times the size of what was detonated over Hiroshima. So to the movie's credit, it actually actually does a good job of using a much smaller bomb relative to how big these things can get. That being said though, they're still far from me letting them off the hook. The other thing about neutron bombs that makes them special is that they give off about 10 times the neutron radiation of a fission bomb of the same size. That means that instead of most of the bomb's energy just being a regular blast, a lot more of it is specifically radiation energy, which is longer lasting and harder to contain. So even though the bat bomb is smaller than say the bomb dropped on Hiroshima, inside the blast radius, uncontrollable radiation would make it much more deadly. So how big exactly is that blast radius? Well, the movie actually tells us that it's 6 miles, or about 12 kilometers, so we know how far we need to get the bomb away from every other person to avoid major casualties. The end of the movie is trying to do this when we see Batman tow the bomb out to sea with his Batcopter thing, but there are a lot of problems here. The first and most important is time. Let's break it down. When Batman attaches a harness to the bomb, we see that it has 1 minute and 57 seconds left before detonation. Then, he wastes a bunch of time macking on Selina Kyle and having a heartfelt goodbye with Commissioner Gordon. Factoring in this hanger, hanky-pranky into the countdown, he has just 75 seconds to get that bomb as far away from Gotham as he possibly can. So, let's assess how he does. Let's assume that Batman's Batcopter is as fast as the fastest helicopter in the world. This would make it the Eurocopter X3, which can achieve an absolute max flight speed of 293 miles per hour. It takes the helicopter a minimum of 20 seconds to achieve that max speed. Except, even though the Eurocopter X3 is a really fast helicopter, Batman won't be flying at top speed until he clears through the buildings in the city. You can even see how he's slowly lifting the bomb up and dragging it along the ground, even having to blow up and fly through buildings. How long does it take him to get out of the city? Factoring in only the time we see him flying on the screen, it takes him 38 seconds to get out of Gotham. We'll be generous in our calculations here and say for that time, he can fly at 50% of his top speed. I mean, it's pretty clear that he isn't going anywhere close to 146 miles per hour, half of our 293 top speed, since you can see him struggling to lift the bomb, it's hitting things, etc., but hey, we'll give the guy a fighting chance. This leaves him with 37 seconds at top speed, beginning right here. Based on all these factors, and with the odds heavily stacked in his favor, the Batcopter would be able to fly only 3.1 miles away from the city before detonating over the water. Looking back at what the movie tells us about the blast radius, 6 miles, it's clear that Batman can't make it out far enough to even save Gotham from the basic blast. Batman is a very different type of superhero. And let me reiterate, our assumptions here are really generous. When planes and helicopters are loaded down, they accelerate and fly a lot slower. Remember that the Batcopter would be carrying a huge payload. Atomic bombs typically weigh between 5 and 20,000 pounds, including their casing. And even though this bomb is small, we can expect it to easily clock in at around 3,000 pounds. Weight that we weren't factoring into the calculations at all. That kind of weight isn't too heavy for the Eurocopter X3 based on its tech specs, but it's over a third of its total capacity, meaning that it would definitely slow down the flight based on weight and wind resistance. But okay, let's take it to the extreme. Just for funsies, let's see if there was ever any chance of this scenario being even a little bit accurate, because I like Batman, and math is fun. Let's assume that not only is the bomb weightless, but Batman hitches it to his fastest in the world Batcopter, already somehow going at top speed, and it doesn't take any additional time to change the height of the helicopter in the air. If we basically ignore the laws of physics to make all this happen, you come out with a different distance. Batman would be able to travel, drumroll please, 6.1 miles offshore.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Technically just edging out the main blast radius of the bomb. So, I guess technically there was a way to fake it to make it look like it works. Even in this scenario, not exactly. Because the Batman bomb is a dirty bomb, and that means you need to factor in radiation. To understand what happens in Gotham when the bomb doesn't make it out of town, we'll go back to our original calculations where Batman makes it a little more than 3 miles off the coast. To figure out what kind of damage the bomb causes from there, we have to be clear about where Gotham is. Technically, it's a fictional location, but there are plenty of clues in the Batman universe that give a good indication of what real-life city it's based on. Gotham City is a nickname for New York City, first used back in 1807. Batman's writer Bill Finger also originally meant for Batman's location to be New York, which is why he chose the name Gotham. And the city used as a stand-in for Gotham in The Dark Knight Rises is New York City. And if that's not enough evidence for you, Well, sorry, geez, face the facts, it's true, but okay, fine. You can tell that this is specifically Manhattan when you see Bane destroying all the bridges into town. I could go on, but really, there is no debate here. Why does this matter? Well, knowing that Gotham is roughly New York tells us a lot, especially about where Batman is going with the bomb. If Batman is starting in Manhattan, we know that there's only one direction you can go over Manhattan into the water, south. With that, we now know Batman's trajectory, and all that's left is for us to pinpoint the area 3.1 miles off the coast and figure out what would happen if you detonated a 4-kiloton nuclear bomb there. Unfortunately, modeling a nuclear bomb is incredibly difficult. Remember, there are a lot more factors in a dirty bomb than a regular explosion. There's the fireball, which is what creates the mushroom cloud that we associate with all the old footage of nuclear bombs. Then there's the physical blast radius, which is the actual shock wave that blasts through buildings and breaks glass. And finally, there's the nuclear fallout, which can travel massive distances and cause damage for years, decades to come. Luckily, I don't have to model out this explosion on my own because the internet can do it for me. Believe it or not, there's a site called Nuke Project that raises awareness for how destructive nuclear weapons are that actually lets you model the damage a nuke would cause anywhere in the world. Yeah, this is one of those nightmare fuel websites. Don't want to play with this one before going to bed or in the airport like we were when we were working on this episode. I've got to be on some watch list somewhere at this point. Anyway, you can't put in every factor, but we can put in a few, including where the bomb goes off and how much it weighs. We know that the blast radius will already be 6 miles, and the model tells us that close to the center of the blast, we're looking at a 50 to 90% mortality rate. So what happens? At 3.1 miles offshore, buildings in Jersey City, Brooklyn, and Staten Island would instantly collapse. Everyone from the bottom of Staten Island to northern Manhattan would have third-degree radiation burns. Even though the fireball would be mostly contained in the water, our model does show that almost 6,000 people are going to die immediately, with another 245,000 people being injured from collapsed buildings and radiation. It's important to remember, too, the bomb doesn't have to go off in the water for that to happen. The most famous devastating nuclear explosions, like the one in Hiroshima, didn't happen with the bomb on the ground. It happened when the bomb exploded 600 meters above ground level. Just like in our scenario with Batman, the bomb exploded in midair, which was actually more destructive than it might have been on the ground. According to this simulation, even structures that weren't destroyed would take damage, as far as Queens and northern Manhattan. All the windows and car windshields in lower Manhattan would break, the Empire State Building would literally sway, and the Chrysler Building would have floors of broken glass. People would die across 3 boroughs of the city. And believe me, I'm not saying any of this lightly. This is incredibly scary stuff, and it gets worse. When a nuclear reaction doesn't have any shield, it creates what's known as fallout. Maybe you've heard of this. They've made a really obscure video game series about it. I don't know. In a very basic sense, nuclear fallout is residual radioactive material that's blown into the atmosphere, then falls out of the sky after the explosion and shockwave are gone. In our model, the fallout from this explosion will go the way the wind is blowing or water is flowing. Luckily, most of the water flows out to the ocean, along with the rest of the tin cans and dead bodies that are floating in the East River pretty much most of the time anyway. And I say luckily with a huge grain of salt. That radiation is going to contaminate the ocean for years, and with it all sea life, which will eventually make its way back to humanity. But what we're most interested in is the wind. The wind is a whole nother story. In Manhattan, wind patterns could carry radioactive dust, ash, or even black rain. Literal black rain. Rain that is black. All the way up the island and out into as far as Connecticut. And don't think you'll escape it by taking a weekend at the Hamptons, because this stuff can literally last for years. Cancer rates in the city would potentially skyrocket from the air and radioactive drinking water, and child birth defects would show up all over Manhattan. Not that you'd be able to get out of the city anyway. Remember, in this scenario, there are no bridges intact out of the city, and no way to evacuate Manhattan. Everyone is gonna be there stuck in lockdown, in a radioactive field for weeks. And here you thought the Dark Knight trilogy was dark before. But let's rewind and see if there was anything that could have been done to save the thousands of Gotham lives that were lost. Believe it or not, all of this could have been avoided. Let's say that Batman doesn't waste the 42 seconds on goodbyes with Catwoman, or this tearful farewell with Commissioner Gordon. I mean, they don't even make sense anyway. It's not like he kills himself. He ends up with Selina Kyle and could have just sent Commissioner Gordon a postcard saying, "Hey, sup, I was Batman the whole time. Psych." So let's say that instead of wasting time that could have been spent, disposing of a massive nuclear bomb, Batman actually, I I don't know, did his job and used all that time to haul away the bomb a little bit further. Now he has a whole other 42 seconds to travel at top speed in the Batcopter. So bringing back our first model, he now has 81 seconds over the water, more than double what he was doing before. Doing the math, that would put Batman safely at 6.6 miles away from the coast, now outside the blast radius with room to spare. In this scenario, Batman almost clears the outer boroughs, and we still have about 1,000 casualties, but deaths have been reduced by 75%. Injuries are reduced 83% to about 24,000, which is still a lot, but it's happening in boroughs that are much easier to evacuate and keeps Manhattan almost completely intact. If we give him our super scenario where he isn't slowed down at all, he can actually get a whopping 9.5 miles away, well out into the ocean, where yes, the bomb is still going to take out a lot of fish, but humanity will actually be saved with 0 casualties and no injuries based on the model. The extra 42 seconds Batman should have spent in the air cost Gotham over 4,000 deaths and literally hundreds of thousands of injuries. All of them could have been saved if Batman had just kept it in his pants or his rubberized codpiece. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut. If you thought your reserved D-Box seats to the 3D IMAX showing of Star Wars The Force Awakens cost an arm and a leg, you ain't seen nothing yet. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Film Theory, where today, hold on to your fitted Jedi leggings, aka your jeggings, because we're talking about the economics of building the Death Star. And before you wander away thinking that this is just going to be a bunch of math for the next 15 minutes, well, there's going to be some math, but that math will totally be worth it, because by the end of the episode, you're going to learn that there's a force in So NASA finds that water exists on Mars the exact same week The Martian comes out. A movie, mind you, that features NASA very prominently. Coincidence? I think not. But hey, that's just a theory. Internet, welcome to Film Theory, where today's episode promises to be crappier than usual. But that's got nothing to do with the relative lameness of the puns we're using today. It's because we're talking about The Martian. And no, that's no judgment on the movie. It's just full of poop. Poop science. Poop science that we're gonna pick through to find the truth. Then flush and wash our hands, since that's the sanitary way to go. So what are all these rectal ramblings about? Well, the film is all about an astronaut named Mark Watney, played by Matt Damon, who gets severely injured during a massive dust storm on Mars. His team believes him to be dead, and to save themselves, evacuate the planet, escaping the storm, and returning to Earth. As you do. Fun fact, this is one of the most scientifically inaccurate parts of the movie. You see, the Martian atmosphere is only about 1% the thickness of Earth's, meaning that its winds would pack much less of a punch. The worst, the absolute worst storms on Mars, the type that only occur once every 5 years or so, wouldn't be enough to register as a Category 1 hurricane. That might be enough to knock you over if, I don't know, you're not paying attention, but it surely isn't enough to tip rockets over or rip satellite dishes off of buildings and impale them into unsuspecting Matt Damons. But hey, it's just a setup. A movie setup. We'll let it slide. Anyway, the not-so-shocking twist of these first 5 minutes, since the movie just started and Matt Damon's face is all you see in the movie's marketing, is that, surprise, surprise, he's not dead. Bum, bum, bum! Which means Watney is stranded, alone on the Red Planet, and must figure out how to survive until NASA can figure out a way to bring him home. And, well, that might be easy in your Star Trek, Firefly, or Battlestar universes. This is hard sci-fi, which adheres pretty true to life, meaning the trip trip is gonna take a lot of time. So, how can Watney last for over a year on a planet without air or food? Well, let me tell you on the other side of the spoiler warning. Now, I won't be ruining the ending of the film, or really anything major, but we'll be talking about several of the more science-y story points. If you don't want that sort of thing spoiled, pause this video and go watch the movie. Or better yet, read the book. Or better yet, listen to the audiobook. Is Audible sponsoring this episode? No? That was the last one, huh? Man, probably could have planned that better. Anyway, Watney isn't just any astronaut.
I'm a botanist.
Which means he has the power of plants at his side. It's convenient, right? Outside of rationing out the remaining food from the rest of the crew, he figures out a way to get the nutrients and water necessary to grow plants in the Martian soil. And not just any plant, potatoes. And this is what I want to focus on today. The science around growing and living off of potatoes on Mars. Because seriously, there is no way this can work in real life, right? I mean, I was sitting there in the theater watching these scenes and thinking to myself, oh man, I can't wait to rip into these with some real facts. So alright, here's my chance. Let's break it down. First things first, living off of nothing but spuds and a small ration for over 400 days. It seemed absurd, but believe it or not, you can survive off of nothing but potatoes. Sam Gamgee once pointed out that the potato is a very versatile food. You can boil them, mash them, and even stick them in a stew, but even he would be surprised to find that it goes way beyond that. Potatoes are actually pretty high in almost everything the human body needs to survive, save for vitamins A, B12, and E, as well as calcium. In fact, a man named Chris Voigt, executive director of the Washington State Potato Commission, because potatoes have rights too, damn it, went through 60 days of eating nothing but potatoes just to prove that it was possible. And oh yeah, it was possible. But as his blog entries show, you're not gonna enjoy yourself. You should read these things. By day 3, it's obvious he's already starting to kick himself. Quote, I finished day 3 last night. I have to admit, it has finally sunk in that I'll be eating just potatoes for 57 more days. Oh yeah, you will, buddy. And the deeper and deeper you go, the more desperate it becomes. Here's the rub though, he was eating 20 potatoes a day. Some mornings for breakfast, he was eating between 2 and 4 pounds of hash browns. Watney, at his leanest, is doing a single potato a day. It doesn't seem like enough, right? And honestly, it isn't. A medium potato is giving your body about 163 calories, when a man like Watney needs around 2,000. But it's not as bad as it might seem. Remember, Watney is on Mars, where the gravity is 1/3 of what it is on Earth. So, while he's still doing a ton of work each day in his efforts to survive, he's having to spend much less energy to do that work. Add to that the small amount of rations he's allowed to eat, and the fact that his fellow teammates left behind pills, most likely including some vitamin supplements, and it's not hard to believe that he could survive on this diet. Long story short, can a man live on bread alone? Yeah, he can, for about 6 months, then he dies of scurvy. Can a man live on potatoes alone? Surprisingly, yes, better than bread. As long as you give him the occasional Flintstones chewable, he's good to go. So alright, round 1 goes to The Martian. I tip my cap to you, movie, but we're not done yet. What about actually growing the potatoes in Martian soil? Well, the first issue would be Mars's distance from the sun. The planet is 1.5 times further from the sun than Earth, and gets 60% of the light, so plants would grow much slower as a result. But the bigger issue here would be the nutritional deficiencies in the soil. Unlike Earth, where bacteria fixes nitrogen from the atmosphere, making the soil much more conducive to plant life, Mars doesn't have that benefit. But lo and behold, the uncontested best botanist on Mars has a solution for that problem too. Poop. To help fertilize the soil he gets from the surface of Mars, Matt Damon uses his own feces as manure. He even goes out to the back of the structure he's staying in and reclaims all of the feces his crewmates left before they evacuated. Evacuated. Probably more accurate to say after they evacuated, before they evacuated. But okay, seeing this, I was skeptical. If this is really such a good idea, why don't we use our bum brownies as manure here on Earth? Well, surprise, surprise, we do. Now tell me, are you grossed out to know that someone else's excrement has been all up in that carrot you currently have stuck in your mouth? By the way, good on you for being healthy. And that, loyal theorists, is why you wash your food. In fact, using human feces like this started thousands of years ago and was called night soil because the feces was collected at night from cesspools and outhouses to be used during the day as fertilizer. Nowadays, it has the much more scientific and hygienic name, biosolids. In fact, as of 2013, 55% of U.S. sewage solids, aka your butt butter, was turned into fertilizer. And farmers want more. These people are making money off of your poop, and you're not seeing a cent of that. I mean, at least YouTube gives us a 55-45 split when they sell the crap that we produce. Alright, that said, in all seriousness, Matt Damon would have faced yet another problem with this. See, biosolids are heavily treated human feces. The raw stuff is rarely used as manure because every human carries pathogens, things that make you sick. Think viruses, bacteria, parasites, Adam Sandler films. Humans are immune to their own pathogens, but the pathogens of others can be very dangerous. And this isn't just a case of being careful while handling someone else's poop. If pathogens exist in the soil that a plant is growing in, they can be transferred into the plants. So using his crewmate's excrement would have been disastrous for Matt Damon, had space not once again saved the day. Watney is on Mars, meaning that the feces left behind by his crewmates was freeze-dried and then exposed to the near vacuum and sub-freezing temperatures of Mars's atmosphere. As a result, the pathogens would have been killed and Watney would be just fine. In the words of Jeff Goldblum,
life, finds a way.
So in this episode, I'm batting 0 for 2. The science around our turd tubers, our poop potatoes, stacks up almost 100%. Notice though that I said almost, and that's because there's still one fatal flaw here. A flaw that I can't really blame the author of the book for not addressing, since this fact was discovered after he had already written the story. You see, loyal theorists, in May of 2008, the Phoenix Mars lander performed the very first ever wet chemical analysis of the dirt on the surface of Mars, and found that roughly 0.6% of Martian soil is made up of perchlorate. Don't worry, you're not supposed to know what that is. In fact, NASA, when they found it, even had to look it up. Perchlorates are basically salts that are capable of disrupting the body's metabolic systems. They interfere with our ability to absorb iodine, messing with the production of thyroid hormones and potentially throwing off mood, appetite, temperature, sleep, and more. Messing with hormones, never a good thing. I mean, perchlorates are used in some rocket propellants, so, you know, maybe not the healthiest thing for humans to be consuming in large quantities. In fact, it's also the reason we recently found liquid water in the sub-zero temperatures of the Martian surface, like we mentioned at the top of the episode. You know how salt water requires colder temperatures to freeze? Well, the same principle holds here. Perchlorates are the salt, acting as a sort of antifreeze and lowering the freezing point of water, hence liquid water on Mars. But this is why it matters in the context of the Martian. Long-term exposure can result in much higher chances of developing thyroid cancer. And though 0.6% might not seem like a lot, it's well above Earth levels and far beyond FDA-regulated amounts, which means I win, right? I found my scientific loophole. Matt Damon would have died, wouldn't he? Or at the very least would have been at risk for some long-term health defects, right? Well, to determine that, we need to first figure out how much Martian dirt Mark would be inhaling and see if he reaches toxic levels. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, a typical human between the ages of 1 and 20 consumes 100 milligrams of dirt a day. For Watney on Mars, with 0.6% of that being perchlorate, that's 0.6 milligrams of perchlorate a day. And since the potatoes are planted in the stuff, they'll absorb a bit from there too, so he'll consume, say, rounding this out to aggressively 1 milligram of perchlorate per day. Multiply that by the 500 or so days he's consuming the stuff, and honestly, he's still in the clear. According to the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, tests were done on healthy volunteers who took 35 milligrams of perchlorate every day for 14 days and 3 milligrams a day for 6 months. Both groups absolutely fine. And by our calculations, worst case scenario, Watney would be consuming 1/3 of that amount for 3 times the amount of time, so presumably he would be okay. And that extrapolation of the data is supported by longitudinal research. Long-term studies looking at similar levels of exposure over the course of years showed similar results. No effect. In other words, it would take a lot more of the stuff over a much longer time to start affecting the thyroid. And if all else fails, here's the kicker. Even if these were immediately toxic levels of perchlorate, there would be a really easy solution to it. Wash the dirt. Seriously, simple as that. Wash the dirt. Soak the soil in some water, let the perchlorate dissolve, pour the water out, and then boil it to reclaim the water. Remember, it's just salt. Watney's biggest threat would just need a bath. In conclusion, try as I might to science the shit out of these scenes, to find a reason why this absurd premise of planting potatoes in Mars would obviously kill Mark Watney off, the Martian did its homework from every angle. The potatoes, the fecal fertilizer, even the deadly salt, all explained away. These farming scenes are pretty darn airtight, which is good since Watney is out there in the near vacuum of space. And you know what? I'm okay losing this one. It's refreshing to see a piece of science fiction pay attention to the real world science. So good on you, Martian. Or the Martian. Your science gets the theorist stamp of approval. I guess you could say that the Martian's crap science isn't crap science. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut. Stupid corporate decisions number 1. HBO had the opportunity to air The Walking Dead, but passed. Apparently, they thought it was too violent. Internet, welcome to Film Theory, where we always recommend the double tap. So let's talk The Walking Dead. In a world where zombies are everywhere, AMC's The Walking Dead is the big boy on the playground. The most popular piece of zombie-related media in the last decade. Except not. They're not zombies, they're walkers. Walker. Or biters. Biters? I always thought that was weird, but in researching this episode, I found that according to the series creator, Walking Dead takes place in a universe where the concept of zombies doesn't exist in the pop culture lexicon. Hence the characters having to learn about things like attacking the brain. Well, it's good for them, I guess. It means they live in a universe where Uwe Boll's House of the Dead doesn't exist. On the flip side, though, their insistence on calling them walkers now forces me to sarcastically replace all zombie pictures throughout this episode with pictures of tennis ball-laden nursing home equipment and Chuck Norris Texas Ranger, the original Walker. But there's always been one other thing that's bothered me since early on in the show. And no, it's not the way Rick pronounces thangs.
Anything, everything.
Or Carl. It's the fact that by the end of season 1, all of our main characters are killing machines. Deadly warriors who are always on high alert because if they let their guard down for a second, they could be mincemeat for some zombified or biter-ified creature. They've survived this long because, well, survival is their talent. But despite all of this, zombies still somehow are able to sneak up on them. Regularly. That is absurd. These are zombies, not Solid Snake. But it did get me thinking. Our heroes can't seriously be snuck up on that often, can they? How can they be so simultaneously badass, yet still get into these absurd situations with walkers that move at a snail's pace, sneaking up and surprising them? Is it just some lazy writing? An easy way to create tension where realistically there probably shouldn't be any? Probably yes. But here on Film Theory, we try to explain away those logical inconsistencies with the help of science. And today, loyal theorists, I think there's actually something very wrong with our lovable ragtag motley crew of survivors. Something with a perfectly sound scientific explanation. I think they're all losing their hearing. Now, I get it. That's a bit of a weird thing to say, right? Hearing loss? Well, first, let me explain how noise-induced hearing loss works. It should come as no surprise, but very loud sounds can damage the internal workings of the ear. Sound is measured in decibels, and generally speaking, anything below 75 decibels is safe to hear pretty much constantly. However, once you start getting above 85 decibels, you get into the range where the sound you hear can potentially damage one's hearing and cause permanent hearing loss. Once you get over 120 decibels, you actually start to feel pain. The louder the sound, the shorter amount of time it takes to do the damage. Now, that 85 decibel threshold of danger might sound like it's a really high number, but it's not. A normal conversation is usually around 60 decibels. Heavy city traffic is 85. Markiplier's reaction to a FNAF jump scare? probably around 100 depending on the volume of your headphones, a passing motorcycle, a concert, your MP3 player at max volume, all well above 85. And the decibel recording system is weighted in a pretty unique way, so that in that last example, an iPod turned up all the way actually averages at roughly 105 decibels, which would be 100 times more intense than a sound at 85 decibels. So that's all well and good, but how does it all work? Well, when a noise travels into the ear, it vibrates the eardrum and several tiny bones, which amplify the sound as it enters the inner ear, otherwise known as the cochlea. Here, small hairs are attached to nerve cells. These hairs ride the waves of these vibrations, creating electrical signals that travel from our auditory nerves into the brain. We are then able to translate the signals into sounds we can recognize and understand. The sheer force of the vibrations created by sounds louder than 85 dB run the risk of destroying these little hairs, and once they're damaged or destroyed, they don't grow back. The hearing loss is permanent. So what does any of this have to do with The Walking Dead? Well, consider this. Guns are loud. Incredibly loud. And the survivors often shoot them in positions where the guns are right next to their ears. Oftentimes in firing squad formation or right next to their faces. Just watch a Rick Grimes kill compilation. It's incredible. Up through March of this year, Rick alone had killed 154 things throughout the 5 seasons. Humans and walkers alike. And the vast majority of those are gun kills, with Rick firing wildly into crowds of zombies like it's Left 4 Dead. So those are bad enough, but then there are the creative kills where the gun is right up against the ear. Like in Season 2 when Rick gets stuck under 2 walkers he just killed and has to do this cool move where he shoots a walker through the mouth of another walker. The gun is inches from his ear. They actually play with the idea of the sound of guns hurting your ears in Season 4 when Rick headbutts a man holding a gun to his head. The man fires the gun by accident right next to Rick's ear, and Rick hears ringing for several seconds. But this, I think, is my favorite, where Rick literally turns his ear into the gun before he shoots it. Look, Andrew Lincoln, I get it. I know you're conveying some painful emotions here, but your character is going to be dealing with some painful emotional ear damage when you do that. Again, there are more instances of this than would be interesting to count in this video, but you can already start to see how the survivors are putting their hearing in danger. But just how far gone are they? Let's find out. Our favorite sheriff turned walker slayer's gun of choice is the Colt Python 357 Magnum, which, when shot, has been measured to be as loud as 164 decibels. Just to give you a frame of reference, that's over 100 times more powerful than a jet engine, which is rated at 140 dB. 100 times! And he's firing this thing off like it's Christmas! There are countless different types of 9mm pistols used in the show, from Glocks to Ladysmiths to Browning high powers, all of which measure in the 160 dB range. Shotguns are also a frequent weapon of choice, including several different types of 12 and 20 gauge varieties, clocking in at 150 decibels or so. Dale's 308 Remington 700, 156 dB. Long story short, just looking at these numbers, we can see that all of them get above both the threshold of danger and the threshold of pain. So, you know, we're dealing with some pretty powerful sound. And it gets worse. A lot of the time, the survivors are shooting in small, echoey, enclosed spaces. I mean, they spent 2 entire seasons and had countless firefights in a prison. As early as episode 1, Rick gets stuck under a tank and kills off 5 walkers. And this makes things much worse for them. You see, sound acts as a wave and can bounce off of walls, creating echoes. That's why I record these episodes in my closet. The clothes absorb sound, so it sounds like I'm right up against you and talking into your ear. Can you hear me now? I'm talking up into your ear. I love you, I love you, I love you. I'm getting all up in you right now. But without any padding to absorb the sound, it bounces until it eventually dissipates. With each bounce, those tiny hairs in your ears are getting smacked with another wave. And when you're dealing with sounds as loud as gunshots, each of those waves is creating huge amounts of damage. Sure, when a sound echoes, it generally tends to become about 40% weaker. But at this high of dB level in such close proximity to your ears, it's gonna be very, very bad for our survivors' hearing. Like, say, that tank I mentioned. It's very likely that Rick would have had his hearing permanently damaged in the first hours of the series when he killed the walkers under the tank and in the tank with him. Sure, they do show Rick in pain after the encounter, the sound of the gunshot completely disorienting him, but then they promptly forget about this and have him talk on a walkie-talkie a couple seconds later. This is something that happens time and time and time again on this series, and sound damage has a cumulative effect. While one bad blast can have you lose your hearing permanently, see also Archer and his tinnitus. More often, each concussion your ear has to deal with adds on to all the other ones that came before, meaning that with each shot, each creative kill, the survivors are becoming more and more deaf, more and more susceptible to a walker sneak attack. Now, I can already hear you saying, but MatPat, what about soldiers? They're in firefights at least semi-frequently, but they're not all deaf. And yeah, that's true, but there's a key difference. The military uses hearing protection. Allow me to introduce you to the Combat Arms earplug. These things are pretty cool, with two sides that offer two different types of protection. The yellow sides allow you to hear conversations, but protect slightly against high-pitched banging and snapping, while the brown sides offer complete hearing protection. And even with this preventative action, there have been reports of hearing loss or ringing in ears being a serious problem for soldiers returning home from war. And it's not just from Iraq or Afghanistan, it's been a problem since World War II. So with the amount that they shoot guns and how often the guns are close to their faces, most of the survivors really are putting their lives at risk. It also explains why Rick has to shout literally non-stop to find Carl. But there's one more cool part to this theory, Daryl and Michonne. Since they were introduced, these characters have been fan favorites, mostly because of their really cool weapons of choice, the crossbow and the katana. But now you have another reason to respect these machines of walker death. Not only are they super effective and reusable weapons, but they're also practically silent, which means they're gonna be a lot more effective in the series for a lot longer. Daryl isn't deadly simply because of his aim and tracking skills, it's because he's protecting one of his most valuable survival senses, his hearing. Okay, yeah, sure, he rides around on a motorcycle, which is above the threshold of danger, but no one's perfect, okay? In a post-apocalypse, you gotta do what you gotta do. Long story short, with how much they shoot guns and how often they're in enclosed spaces while shooting, I'm surprised that any characters on the show can hear anything anymore, let alone all the loud, sputtering zombies that seem to sneak up with them with remarkable ease. I guess the survivors of The Walking Dead should more accurately be called The Walking Deaf. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut. Attention anime fans, today we're taking a poll. Which series would you like to see covered on a future episode of Film Theory? Full Metal Alchemist or Sword Art Online? Click on one to choose to cast your vote. In the meantime though, if you watch The Walking Dead, you must like zombies. If so, check out my video on history's most famous zombie, Frankenstein's monster, and how Dr. Frankenstein could indeed bring the dead back to life using modern science by clicking right here. And really, that's about it. So now if you'll excuse me, I've gotta go, work on my next theory. Yeah, we're tackling that one. Get ready. Hello, Internet. Welcome to Film Theory, looking for love in Alderaan places. Recently, my friends over at Screen Rant did a video on their top 10 movie theories that change everything. My theories didn't make the cut, apparently. Come on, guys! Neo not being the one? Ant-Man destroying the planet? What do you expect of me? So I asked Ant-Man the other day if he had change for $1. You know what he said to me? Sorry, I'm a bit short.
Boo, you suck.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Film Theory, where, thank goodness, our science is better than our jokes. So, Marvel, they're kind of a big deal, huh? I mean, I guess it's fair to say since they've redefined comic book movies, made megastars out of unknown characters, and completely changed the way we watch movies. Not too bad. But even with all their successes, I would say Ant-Man may be one of their biggest. Sure, Avengers was game-changing and Guardians was an instant smash, but Ant-Man literally had nothing going for it. Not even a snarky raccoon. I mean, seriously? Ant-Man? The character is an unknown, the production was a mess, and even the trailer was just kinda generic. Honestly, I went to see it simply because you can only play solitaire for so long before the loneliness starts to weigh on your cold, dead heart. Forever alone. But crippling loneliness be darned, I was blown away. The characters were lovable, the action was so clever. And it gave me a newfound respect for Baskin-Robbins.
Baskin-Robbins always finds out.
But topping that sweet 31 flavor ice cream sundae was the delicious cherry of science. Because in trying to come up with a perfectly valid explanation for Ant-Man's ability to shrink and grow, Marvel, without realizing it, created the strongest, most devastating superhero in their on-screen universe thus far. Had the events in the movie been real, Ant-Man would have destroyed the planet. It's a detail Marvel overlooked, but like Baskin-Robbins, I always find out. So Scott Lang, the Ant-Man, has the ability to shrink and increase in size. This is explained through the use of Pym particles, a rare group of subatomic particles that shrink or increase the distance between atoms or the distance between parts of the atom. Now, that may sound crazy, but the scientific basis is totally plausible. You know how everything around you is made of atoms? Well, atoms are mostly made of empty space. Take, for instance, the hydrogen atom, which is roughly 99.99999999996% empty. Jeez, that is a lot of nines. Which brings us to a mind-blowing fact. If you were to squeeze all of the space out of the atoms in the human body, you could fit the particles of the entire human race inside of a sugar cube. All of humanity's particles could exist in a volume that small. Sweet! Literally. Which obviously begs the question, if your body is made of mostly empty space, why can't your hand pass through the computer screen? Well, how do you know? Have you tried it now that you know the truth? Seriously, reach out, touch the screen. You just gotta believe. That I'm obviously trolling you. Stop smudging your screen. Of course your hand can't pass through it. You think watching a YouTube video is gonna change decades worth of physics that you know from personal experience? I appreciate your faith in me, but sadly, I do not yet have the ability to bend physical realities of reality. But that being said, here's a crazy thing. In the moment of you touching the screen, you weren't actually touching it. The chair you're sitting on, not touching that either. You're hovering on top of it. The electrons of the chair are repelling the electrons of your butt. Negative charges are repelling each other. That's why, despite being mostly empty space, all you overeager youngsters aren't gonna be able to phase through the walls of the girls' locker room anytime soon. How dare you? Respect their privacy. But what it does mean is that, in theory, if Pym particles could increase or decrease the distance between atoms, they could feasibly work. The fake science makes sense. Almost. The movie explicitly states that Pym particles only change the distance between atoms. They don't actually change the number of atoms. What that means is that when they change the size of an object, the mass stays the same. Mass, aka the quantity of matter the object has, aka the number of atoms. So, if Scott's mass stays the same, but his volume is either shrinking or expanding, what's really changing is his density. Density equals mass divided by volume, and messing with this completely changes all the events that you see in the movie, including giving Scott the ability to destroy the planet. Let's break it down. Take, for instance, the multiple times Pym particles are used to increase the size of objects. The two that immediately pop to mind for me are the giant ant and the Thomas the Tank Engine toy. These moments near the end of the movie were unexpected and absolutely hilarious. Some of the most creative humor I've seen in a movie in a long time, but the real-life real-life physics would have made them even more ridiculous. On average, ants only tend to have a mass of about 3 milligrams, but the PIM particles now expand those 3 milligrams of mass to a volume the size of a human, which is about 66.4 liters. 67.4 if you include my daily liter of Diet Coke. Throwing that into D equals MV means that the density of the ant would be at 0.04 milligrams per liter. What's that mean? Well, consider this. The density of air is 1,200 milligrams per liter. That ant would be lighter than air. He would literally float away like a giant creepy ant balloon. The same would hold true for the giant Thomas the Tank Engine. Forget bursting through the house and crushing that cop car. The thing would just drift away like a bouncy castle caught in a breeze. By the way, that sort of thing has actually been a pretty serious problem around the country. Not rogue Thomas the Tank Engines, but bouncy castles on the breeze. In 2011 alone, at least 10 bouncy castles either floated away or collapsed because they weren't properly tied up, injuring more than 40 people. It's like a twisted version of Up. So parents, remember, guns don't kill people. This public service announcement is brought to you by the Film Theorist Council for Public Safety. Long story short, haphazardly tossing those enlarging shurikens around would result in some pretty bizarre balloon creatures. And of course, the opposite effect would also occur if you took something big and heavy and used PIM particles to make it a lot smaller. Say, for instance, a tank on a keychain, perhaps. After doing the research, the particular tank Hank Pym uses as a keychain was a T-34 Soviet combat vehicle weighing in at approximately 26.5 tons. I don't think I really need to explain how that much weight on a keychain might be a bit tough to tote around, probably ruining a pair of pants or two if you kept it in your pocket. However, the tank wouldn't be the only thing that'd be a problem if it was shrunken down like in the film. So would our lovable hero, Scott Lang. Throughout the movie, Scott takes advantage of his new size to sneak into several places, whether it be by riding on ants or hiding in clothing or whatever. Okay, so let's say that Scott weighs roughly 200 pounds of pure Paul Rudd muscle. There would be absolutely no way Anthony, or any of the other ants for that matter, would be able to support that amount of weight. I mean, ants are able to lift 5,000 times their own mass, don't get me wrong, but when your mass is only 3 milligrams, that's still just 15 grams. Scott, at 200 pounds, would have a mass of roughly 90,000 grams. He would squish them long before they entered battle. And forget all those scenes where Ant-Man is climbing on people or lands on their gun or whatever. Putting that much weight on a small surface area could have some pretty devastating consequences. The movie briefly toys with this idea when Scott first changes into the suit and tests it out. He falls out of the bathtub, and when he lands on the tiles of the bathroom floor, you can see them visibly crack under his weight. They then promptly forget this little scientific detail. But now imagine that Scott punches a dude in the face when he's the size of an ant. Because his fist would be a super dense ball of mass focused in an incredibly tiny surface area, his hand would be like the point of a knife or a needle, easily breaking through the skin of his enemies. If he ran and jumped at someone, there's a high likelihood that he'd function just like a bullet, a dense ball of mass shooting his way through his enemy. But that's not even scratching the surface of Scott's true power. Now we're at the true insanity of what he can do. At the end of the movie, Scott must turn off his suit's regulator, the device that protects him from shrinking too small, in order to squeeze between the molecules of Yellow Jacket's power pack. He does this so he can save his daughter, but in doing so, get this, he would have created a black hole. Now, whenever you think of black holes, images of giant planet-eating tears in space-time probably come to mind. Stars that have died and collapsed in on themselves. Bodies with unimaginable mass. However, any amount of mass can actually become a black hole if it becomes dense enough. This is illustrated in a concept known as the Schwarzschild radius. Basically, this is the radius of a sphere that, if all the mass of an object were compressed within that sphere, the escape velocity from it would equal the speed of light. Everything within this radius becomes a black hole. So I did the calculations, and assuming that Scott weighs right around 200 pounds and has a mass of roughly 90 kilograms, he would achieve enough density to become a black hole if he was shrunken down to a radius of roughly 1.3 times 10 to the negative 22nd millimeters, which is tiny. In the film, Scott turns off his suit's safety switch and shrinks down quickly, shrinking past cells and molecules, We then see him shrink past the size of an atom. But even then, he's not small enough. But lucky for us, he keeps going. From the way this scene is designed, he gets smaller than quarks, which is an elementary particle, i.e. particles that aren't made up of any other smaller substance. At least we haven't yet identified what those smaller substances are. Quarks are the pieces that make up protons and neutrons, but he gets smaller yet. By the time he finally stops shrinking, he's surrounded by these weird, flat, crystal-like structures, kind of like fractals or a super trippy screensaver. Now, it's unclear what exactly they are, but from their design, they appear to be an artistic rendering of strings from string theory. It's a long story what exactly they are, and it's better left to another theory, so let's just say this. Between them and quarks, Scott at this point is really small as 10 to the negative 32nd millimeters, which, considering his mass, is small enough to create the density we need to form a black hole. And here's the really fun part. This wouldn't be a mini black hole that would dissipate in the fraction of a second. This would, in fact, be a very viable black hole. Black holes decay by a process known as Hawking radiation, named after Stephen Hawking. As you can imagine, the more mass the black hole has, the longer it can stay viable and start sucking in more mass to grow. According to Medium.com, the least amount of mass that a black hole could stay viable with is 0.00002 grams. But remember, we have nearly 200 pounds of sexy Paul Rudd to feed our little baby black hole, giving it plenty of mass to survive Hawking radiation decay and plenty of time to start sucking in particles from around it, eventually growing so large it would swallow the world as we know it. The brutal irony here is that in trying to save his daughter's life, Scott Lang would have doomed not just her life, but the entire planet, including all our ant balloons and tank keychains. So suck on that, Thor. Even your godlike powers are no match for the Ant-Man.
Is it too late to change the name?
But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut. Oh, and I should mention that the movie's ending overlooks the fact that Scott's atoms can actually shrink smaller than atoms themselves. If PIM particles are just reducing the space between atoms, then the size Scott shrinks to is actually impossible based on the explanation you receive in the movie. He's still made of atoms, the particles themselves aren't shrinking, it's the space between them that is, meaning that he can't get to those crazy small sizes. Sorry, Marvel, you were better off sticking with the explanation from the comic books.
Wake up, theorist. I don't know if you're ready to see what I have to show you, but unfortunately the two of us have very little time. They're coming for you, and I don't know what they're going to do if they find you. I can help you, but only if you do exactly as I say. Watch this video and perhaps you will have a chance. Good luck.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Film Theory. I'm glad you decided to stick around because there is much we have to discuss. When it hit theaters in 1999, The Matrix was unlike anything anyone had ever seen before. Well, unless you keep up with any form of cyberpunk, had ever read a philosophy textbook, were a fan of Japanese anime or kung fu films, had ever watched Tron, you get the idea. But hey, that makes complete sense when you consider that the film's creators, writers, and directors, the Wachowskis, were absolutely massive fanatics of all of those things, and wanted to add to those genres with a film that incorporated elements from all of them. And the world they created, while accessible enough to be mimicked in hundreds of parodies long before poop emojis became a way to ironically say I love you, or less ironically, I have to poop, has long been debated and reinterpreted by the same over-analytical fan base the Wachowskis themselves hailed from. And you know that where there's over-analysis to be had, the theorists will follow. So I dug through the awesome first movie, the not-so-awesome CGI of the second, and the philosophical ramblings of the whole series, only to discover that we have been completely wrong the whole time. That the hero of humanity, named the One, he who was prophesized to bring about the downfall of the machines and reload the Matrix, is not Neo, despite his name being a clever anagram of one. No, put aside Keanu Reeves' highly emotive face. The One is in fact...
Me too.
Agent Smith, the cold-hearted, murderous hater of humanity and the bad guy trying to stop Neo, is in fact the hero who sets in motion the destruction of the Matrix and humanity's freedom. Let's see how far this rabbit hole goes. Now I'm gonna assume you need a bit of a refresher on what the heck this trilogy is about beyond white dreadlocks and Christ imagery. So let me do a real quick recap for you first. In the first movie, we meet Mr. Anderson. I can't do it. I can't do the voice. In the first movie, we meet Thomas Anderson, a hacker codenamed Neo, who is disillusioned with his job, his life, and reality itself, until mysterious messages lead him to Morpheus, who totally blows his mind when he tells him that the world as he knows it is a computer simulation, and humanity is enslaved by machines who use this digital reality, or the Matrix, to keep humanity submissive while they harvest their body heat for energy. Whoa. Turns out, Neo is the subject of a holy prophecy. He is the One, humanity's savior, who has the ability to transcend the laws of this digital reality in such an advanced way that he can do amazing, epic, not at all ripped off from Dragon Ball Z-esque things. All hail the coming of the One and the destruction of the Matrix, right? Well, as the architect explains in the second movie in a monologue that's gone down in history as one of the single most confusing things ever said by an actor in a major blockbuster ever, Neo's special status is all part of the machine's master plan. You see, another name for the One is the Prime Program. He's the result of an imperfect system. You know how when you divide numbers together, you sometimes get a remainder when they don't divide in perfectly? The One is basically all those remainders glommed together into a big number ball, and as long as he exists, the Matrix will remain imperfect and gradually descend into chaos until it crashes and destroys all of humanity, including its last stronghold, the sweaty dubstep-fueled rave cave of Zion. Long story short, humanity will be extinct. In order to prevent this, the One's code needs to enter the source, which allows the Matrix to reload and everything to become perfect and stable. Eventually, Neo goes to the source, jacks in, fights Agent Smith, an AI program tasked with keeping order in the system, loses, or wins? And since Neo is plugged into the source over at Machine City, the anomaly goes bye-bye and the Matrix is able to finally be reloaded, bringing peace to the struggle between man and machine, with blind Jesus Neo being carried off into the light. The end, clear as mud. But what's easy to lose amidst all the black trench coats and bullet time effects are the details. For instance, let's look at the aforementioned prophecy. Quote, "When the Matrix was built, there was a man born inside that had the ability to change what he wanted, to remake the Matrix as he saw fit. It was this man who freed the first of us and taught us the truth. When he died, the Oracle prophesied his return and envisioned that his coming would hail the destruction of the Matrix and the war, bring freedom to our people." End quote. So if Neo is truly the One, he needs to have been born in the Matrix, is able to change it, and ultimately destroys it to set humans free. Let's start with the first criteria. Born inside the Matrix. No. Neo was not born inside of the Matrix. He was born in one of those gross harvest pods by the machines. He even has the extra electrical outlets on his body to prove it, which are so useful during the holiday season. To be fair, Neo was reborn inside the Matrix after being killed by Agent Smith at the end of the first film, but keep in mind that the Oracle's prophecy also specifies, quote, "when the Matrix was first built." And as we're told in the film, this is the 6th version of the Matrix.
The Matrix is older than you know. I prefer counting from the emergence of one integral anomaly to the emergence of the next, in which case this is the 6th version.
Mr. Anderson wasn't around way back then. You know who was, though? Agent Smith. Smith has been there since the beginning.
Did you know that the first Matrix was designed to be a perfect human world where none suffered, where everyone would be happy? It was a disaster.
He speaks about it in a way that implies that he was there. But not only that, he goes so far as to call the Oracle Mom in the third movie.
You would know, Mom.
So despite him being just a computer program, the idea of birth still applies. But look at it a different way. At the end of the first Matrix, Neo jumps into Agent Smith, destroying him from within. But that moment fundamentally changes Smith. He's reborn in the second movie as a rogue virus. As he explains to Neo,
because of you, I'm no longer an agent of this system. Because of you, I've changed. I'm unplugged. A new man.
which just goes to show one other way that Smith was born inside of the Matrix. Okay, but let's move on. The second part of the prophecy says the One will be able to change the Matrix, to remake it as he sees fit. Although Neo shows some real promise at the end of the first movie with his jumping inside Smith fatality, that's pretty much the end of his endeavor to do any kind of next level hacking. Neo doesn't actually change anything throughout the sequels. Sure, he can do some kung fu moves and fly, but that's about it. When it comes to changing the fabric of the Matrix, the way it behaves, Smith shows far more power. I mean, check out how the Matrix looks by the end of the series when Smith is at the height of his power. It's unrecognizable. And very clearly, the one who made those changes was Smith. In his own words,
You like what I've done with the place?
But MatPat, you might be saying, don't you know that Smith is only special because Neo is special? When Neo jumped inside of him at the end of the first movie, he copied part of himself onto Smith. Interesting, theoretical theorist. So you're suggesting that Neo causes Smith's exceptional powers, but not so fast. The quality that determines if someone is truly the One is based on the ability to rebel against the machines. Like Morpheus says,
Yet their strength and their speed are still based in a world that is built on rules.
That makes sense. Machines are just a series of zeros and ones, so of course they're bound by the rules of their programming. But wait, then how do you explain this scene? In the first Matrix, Smith takes out his earpiece while interrogating Morpheus and explains his desire to escape the Matrix.
I must get out of here. I must get free.
And when the other agents walk in and see him without his earpiece in, they scold him. Smith is a program meant to ensure the security of the Matrix. That earpiece is his direct line with the system. And here it appears as though he's going rogue. Not only does the fact that Smith is able to go against the rules and take out his earpiece suggest his heightened ability to rebel, but everything he says in this scene is oddly human, talking about smelling and tasting humanity and being disgusted by them.
It's the smell. I can taste your stink.
Long before he takes on Neo, Smith is working against his programming. Smith, not Neo, is the anomaly in the system. And now for the final tenet of the prophecy, that he would bring destruction to the Matrix and bring freedom to the people and end the war. Okay, so although the saga ends with the Matrix still intact, it gets pretty banged up during the Smith-Neo final battle, and in reloading, one could say that it was destroyed. And look who says that he's actually going to destroy the Matrix. You guessed it, Smith. And the only reason that the war between man and machines ends is because Smith is so darn good at tearing up the fabric of the Matrix that the machines can't control him anymore. This precarious position Smith puts the machines in is what gives Neo the bargaining power to strike up a deal with Babyface over here that allows the humans who want to stay in the Matrix stay,